Welcome to Raising Extreme Athletes Uncensored. This is your reality check and home for uncensored, trusted advice and stories from the trailblazers who came before us. Because it takes a strategic village to raise an extreme pro athlete. This is your village. Today, we're going to be talking about taking time off to train and who's paying for that time. Yeah, I want to know too. So, let's talk. I'm Marina, your host, mother of two aspiring rock climbers and wife to an extreme athlete. So during the Olympics, especially because climbing was in the Olympics, we got very involved in watching a lot about the actual climbers because our ex-coach was one of his top climbers from Chile, because he's Chilean, was going to the majority of the competition. So we were able to really find out a lot about information about a lot of the people that were winning and actually ended up going to the Olympics. And a lot of them were in their 20s, right? Including his athlete as well. And then you would start to hear like the success stories, the ones that were actually winning enough to go to the Olympics. And they were, giving these interviews. Oh, yeah, I took off 2 years from university, or I took off, a couple of years from work so that I could fully train. And me and my husband are looking at each other. We're like, well, who's paying for them? Because they're not big enough for sponsors to pay them. There are definitely those superstars that have been in the climbing world forever, and they're also, competing, and they are fully funded by the sponsors, but they're like 4 of them. And there was like, hundreds of people competing. So we're like, who's paying for all of this? And then, of course, it turned out to be the parents, right? These athletes who were training were living with the parents. The parents were paying for the coaches, the gyms. They also had to get to, for instance, in the U.S., you have to get to the United States, to the USA climbing team. And even when you get to the climbing team, you still have to pay for the lodging. You still have to pay for a lot of things, even though the team pays for some stuff. And this is just for the competitors. Once you get to the Olympics, you're actually qualified. And then a lot more government help is coming in. But up to that point, there is no real government help, right? And this was incredible for us that nobody once gave credit to the people that were funding this training, that were funding this reality of these students. of these climbers, right? They were technically climbing students, right? So this, to me, it was more of like, how can you constantly be overlooking the people that are behind all of this, right? You can't just have this one tiny sentence someplace written about the athlete and their journey without fully acknowledging the parents' involvement and the support, because without that support, without that commitment, there is no athlete. And I think it's really important that we explain that and really bring it out into the open, because a lot of times it's completely overlooked that we just focus on the successes and the achievements of the athlete without understanding that it's like that iceberg. I don't know if you've ever seen that iceberg image. They show like the iceberg is only 10% out, and then 90% of the iceberg is actually underwater. And, they don't talk about this 90%, which I would say more than 50% is the involvement and the support of the family, of the parents. And I just want to finally bring this out into the open because it needs to be discussed. We need to understand this is where it happens. And once we can start talking to the people that are making it happen, I believe that our athletes will get a lot more from us, because now we can learn how it's done properly. Because a lot of times we don't really know what we're doing, right? So this is what I want to talk about. This is what this whole series is all about. And I hope that you guys could give me your own experiences, how are you supporting your kids? What is happening in the house? All of that, because it's time to bring it out into the open. And this is what that village is all about. Please, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review, share it with your friends, and let's get this out in the open.